one of the reasons, of course, why you felt like you couldn't homeschool or shouldn't homeschool is because you weren't trained as a teacher.
Yeah.
So how did that unfold in you? And then how did you see that work itself out as you've homeschooled? You've now graduated 4 of your 7 kids.
Yeah.
How have you seen the Lord work through you to be able to accomplish what you have accomplished?
I think that the most important thing, the biggest light bulb moment for me, was one person who said, you can do it. One person who said, this isn't that hard. You know, your whole life you've been conditioned to believe that kids go to school for learning and they stay home for, I don't know what, they stay home for their meals. But it was that one person.
Mm-hmm. All right. Part of the reason why you decided to homeschool was because you wanted to see that relationship built up between your children. So now that many of your children are grown and you still have some in the home, tell me about what that has done for your family unit.
Oh, the St. John's are a thing. And I think their memories, you know, of being together and schooling together. I mean, I always told my kids, if you can get along with your siblings, you can get along with anyone. And so it doesn't mean that we had perfect days, you know, and I've been homeschooling for 22 years. The laundry has never folded itself. The kids have never come down in the morning and said, oh, Mom, we were so happy to see you. We got up early, did some prepositions, did a little math, thought that would bless you. That never happens, right? But what has happened is over the years, through even the hard days and even the days when I thought I can't do this for one more minute, we have been solidifying relationships with our kids. And one of the things I like to tell parents that I wish I would have known when I became a mother was relationships trump everything. Character trumps curriculum. If we can teach our children what's important and we impart our values to them, really that's what we're doing, right? At the end of the day, education is discipleship. And this is something I didn't understand until I was probably 3 years into homeschooling. Because not only was I saying, I went into it, right, because I saw, oh my goodness, I can do it. I stayed in it because I realized it was absolutely life-changing for our family. It was life-changing. It was life-giving. It was life-affirming. All of a sudden, instead of having my kids go off and be gone for 8 hours a day, I have those 8 hours a day to teach them, to instruct them, to enjoy them, to get to know them. And now that my kids are grown and I have grandkids of my own, and I still have a little one, like our youngest is 8, but I look at parents today who are just starting out and I think to myself, when did we have been so duped in the culture? When did we want to give the very best years of our parenting and the very best years of our young adult lives as parents to a school system? Why are we doing that? And as I look now to my daughter who's beginning to homeschool our grandsons, she has already a vision of what she wants to see happen in her family because that's what happened in her family. And so many families who don't have that vision, they don't realize the joy of it. You know, they look at the hard things, right? It's not hard to see the hard thing. The hard thing is now you, Mom, are the math teacher, right? And you were thinking to yourself, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to teach math to my kids. But what happens is that exchange that you make, that exchange of becoming your child's teacher and exchanging your free time is a beautiful exchange. It is a beautiful thing. And I'm telling you what, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was the hardest thing we ever did to take our daughter out of public school and to make this decision, this very intentional decision to keep our kids home and do something that was counter to the culture. I wouldn't change it for anything, because now I have the beautiful gift of perspective. So when we're younger, we don't have perspective, right? All we're doing is looking at the road ahead of us, which seems so long and so arduous. And we have people in the culture telling us, oh, that's not your job, we'll do it. And in the process of them doing it, what we really do is we scoot out of the driver's seat of our children's lives and we give it to somebody else. And oftentimes we're giving it to people that we don't know. We don't know the worldview of the people that are teaching our children. Something that was so fascinating to me that I've seen happen in the culture, and one of the reasons we keep homeschooling our kids is because we have seen the downward spiral of culture. So what I'm seeing happen now is that we've moved from a place even of education in the school system. It's not about reading and writing and arithmetic anymore. It's about social engineering. It's about teaching our children that there's 15 genders and that there is no God and that their parents aren't the final authority. And as I'm watching the culture and many of my friends whose kids are still in the school struggle with their children, I think back to those 22 years ago when I was struggling just to reorient my daughter when she would come home from 8 hours at school and she would be engaging with students who didn't share her worldview and didn't care about her family, right? I can't even imagine what parents are dealing with now. It's a completely different scenario that we're seeing play out in the public schools right now. And so when you talk about why we do this, why would a person bring their kids home from school? My answer now is, why would we put our kids in school in the first place? To me, this idea that homeschooling is alternative, I think we turn that narrative on its ear and we say, public funded education is the alternative. If you can't think of anything else to do, if there's nothing else available to you, then put your kids in public school. But there are so many wonderful options right now. And to me, homeschooling is the most life-giving, most affirming, puts the parent in the driver's seat of their child's life, which is where God tells us that we should be, right? Parents have been given authority for their children, and parents are the ones who are supposed to be educating their children. And I think moms and dads need to know, not only is it attainable, it's absolutely miraculous what God does when we say, you know what, I'm going to trust you, Lord. I'm going to trust that you have given me these children. And when you gave me these kids, you gave me everything I needed to get them from childhood to adulthood.